the incest and the ritual had been made, my grandmother, my grandmother's mom died as a sacrifice. So the family members got annoyed and upset with my grandma for sacrificing her mother because she wanted power. They were like, oh, for what, you know? You would have let the old man go with all these things because they have tormented us. And we would have continued or moved on with our lives. But you have decided to continue with this evil. So they started now isolating themselves from my grandmother. But she didn't mind because she got what she had wanted. So she continued now serving the enemy. That's how she became a sorcerer. Now, a sorcerer is somebody who can open portals, somebody who can communicate with the devil, somebody who can interact with demons and territorial spirits. One person can hold a region, you know, an area. One person can cause damage, you know, in a place. They also appoint rulers and leaders in areas because of the evil powers that they have. They have the power to anoint leaders, but they are not so educated. So they are even if they have spiritual power, they are limited because they are not so exposed. Now that is the difference between the sorcerer and a wizard. A wizard is somebody that has everything that I've spoken about, but they are also educated. They are in school, they are the professors, they are doctors, they are presidents, but you know, they are also using sorcery, but they are educated. So there are some places and levels they can get to, levels of influence that a mere sorcerer cannot get to because of...
Like an example of that would be like Steve Wozniak. Steve Wozniak was one half of Apple, right? Him and Steve Jobs started Apple, but Steve Wozniak he freely admits that he's a Freemason.
Yeah.
You know, but he was the guy who was actually building the computers, you know, so brilliant mind, but he's also into
sorcery,
into witchcraft, into deep levels of witchcraft. So
but the education knowledge is opening doors that this sorcerer cannot access because of the education level.
Wow.
Yeah, so now she wanted me to be a wizard because they were investing in my education and also training me as a sorcerer. So if I had followed their path, I would be a wizard because there are some doors that I would have easily accessed, but because of my education level that my grandmother couldn't have accessed. I would be working with those big organizations because of my qualification and also because of the sorcery that I was practicing.
Well, I thought wizards were only men. So wizards could be men and women.
Thank you.
Yes, they can be both, men and women. Yeah, so now my grandmother, from being isolated by the family, she found herself also now getting married to my grandfather, who was also believing and practicing witchcraft.
Wow.
And she became the favorite of my grandfather. My grandfather was a polygamous man. So, yeah, that now empowered her even more to practice witchcraft, because when you get into a polygamous situation, you want to be the most loved and favored. You want your children to be, you know, given more than the other children. So she practiced it even more. And that's how she became popular. People who had marriage issues would consult with her. People who had business issues, politicians, businessmen, all kinds of people would now go and all kinds of people would now go and she just exchanges that same spirit, darkness cannot send out darkness. So when you go, let's say, and maybe you're having an issue with your health, she might instruct that spirit to to stop attacking you in that area, but now instruct it to affect you in another area so that you keep going back. It might appear like she has solved the problem of health, but now that spirit will meddle with your finances. And now you remember this lady who solved your health issue, and you keep going back to her, and now they get trapped like that. And whenever they go, they ask for sacrifice. They start with chicken, then goats, then they can go to a cow, and now the next thing is they're asking for somebody you love the most, your mother. They're asking for your child. They're asking for your husband or your wife. You see, the devil is a liar, so he brings them in through deception.
She repeats what you say. I love you. She moves and sings too. That's a live Polly, the surprise magic bird from Zero.
Hey there, Paloma. You have just received a mango box. Fashion is an armor. I think fashion is a powerful agent of conversation. I think it's the way that we communicate who we are. It has directed me towards my specific tastes and interests. It's made me value the quality of things, tailoring and fabrics and all these really fun things. When I was younger, I loved style, but I maybe didn't understand fashion as much.
You're carrying extra 30 pounds. On Monday, October 13th, we start the calisthenics program for beauties who haven't exercised regularly.
Build strength and get toned with just 7 minutes a day. By October 20th, you'll feel it. By November 3rd, you'll see it. By mid-November.
Wow.
And now my grandmother started operating like that, and now that's how I also came into existence through my dad. And because my dad had rejected her witchcraft, she was looking at me as the one to inherit whatever for her, she felt she had worked so hard to achieve that. And that was the way to survive for my grandmother. She felt like that's the only way you can make it in life, by having power. And she would even show me whenever she would be torturing people, she would tell me, you see, I have power. You're also even going to be stronger than me, more powerful than me. You're going to, the things that I'm doing, you're going to even do greater things. So she would expose me to some of the things, like there is what I didn't understand by then. Now I understand that I'm born again. Sometimes she would send me and the missions fail, but I wouldn't figure out why. For instance, there is a time her client came to her and his business was not doing well because he had a competitor, and this competitor was his neighbor. So people were going to his neighbor to buy, and they would not buy from him. So he came to my grandmother asking for help, and my grandmother said, we'll work on that, don't worry, just go back to your shop, I'll handle that. And he would, they would also take offerings. They would, when she like lies to them that she has solved their problem, they would now come back with offerings to her. So now she sent my auntie to go and ask for change, 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 to give them smaller notes. So when she came back, my grandmother said, I don't think she will reject this young girl. So she gave me a smaller note, and she told me, you go to this gentleman, to his shop. She directed me to the shop, and give him this money and ask him to give you a lighter note. And that's what I did. But when I got there, I found a wife, and the wife, during lunchtime, she would switch on a Christian station. a Christian station and the word of God, and now pray along with the service, with the church service. So when I got there, because of the power that was in that shop, I ended up buying things that I'm not sent to buy. The instruction was, go and exchange this money, bring a lighter note. So when I bought and I brought the things from the shop, I told my grandmother, I don't know what happened to me. I just found myself buying this, and I know you didn't send me to buy this, but there is something strange that I found in that shop. I couldn't explain to her that it was the power of God. She asked me, what did you find that woman doing? I told her, I found a woman. She was listening to a certain radio station and listening to a pastor, and she's also praying and talking certain things, that I couldn't understand. So my grandmother explained to me, she said, that person is of the other kingdom. We are not supposed to relate with those kind of people. You're supposed to avoid people who have that kind of energy, because what they do, they drain you. And she explained to me why I need you to be able to exchange this money with that gentleman. Is like, because money represents blood and sweat. So if you get him to exchange money with you, he will be giving you his blood and sweat. And now I'll be able to use that as a point of contact to defile his blood and sweat, so that he'll be laboring in vain. And then our client will be able to switch his destiny and now tap all his customers. So now that's how I understood how my grandmother was functioning. She would just steal people's destinies. She would destroy people's homes. She did a lot of havoc. Like, I was even surprised sometimes some people who I never expected to go consult with her would go religious leaders. That's why I always tell people that salvation is personal. If your salvation is dependent on a man or woman of God, then you might end up losing it, because it's very dangerous to put such a treasure in the hands of a human being. Why doesn't your salvation depend on your relationship with God? Why do you have to connect it to somebody else, So, I grew up now, my grandmother was training me to do witchcraft. She was showing me herbs. She was showing me how to summon spirits. She told me that spirits travel through sound, and you have to know the sounds that please each spirit. And
Wait. You said spirits travel through sound?
Through sound, yes. They travel through sound.
Lord have.
So in shrines, like you see, God is a spirit. He had to create a music department, because spirits, there is something about sound that connects with a spirit. When you worship God in truth and in spirit, you're able to transport his presence. So now, in the kingdom of darkness, there is another spirit that has always desired to be worshipped, and that is Satan. So now, to transport him, you have to know which sound to use to be able to transport him into this world, because for them to operate here, they operate here illegally. They are not supposed to be here. That's why when you bind him or cast him out, he goes, because this place was given to man legally to have dominion.
Wow.
It says, be fruitful, multiply, subdue, and have dominion. This is our territory. So when you say, I rebuke you in Jesus' name, I bind you, I cast you out, he'll go, because he's not supposed to be here. So now how they transport him here is through music, through sound. And in her shrine,